You may not know it, but this is called a joke, so laugh.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Hey, if you don't know who I am, which all of you will, my name's Cammy, or you can call me Cammy for short. And before you ask, it's a unisex name. Ignore what Google says at all cost, okay? I failed most of my GCSE subjects, but the few that I did pass is art, and I thought, why not? Most people who drop out of college do YouTube, so why not me? I'm still gonna go to college, I really need that degree. I don't want the channel to be like super serious and stuff, so hey, let's do something a bit more entertaining. So Donkey Kong's design, eh? I love it. I don't really love the new one. Well, let me go explain. In 1981 BC, before Cammy, Donkey Kong's design was supposed to be a stupid ape, which is down to the name, Donkey Kong. Because Shigeru Miyamoto thought it would be funny to name a monkey Stupid Kong, but he didn't know how to say stupid in English, so he went with Donkey. Now when it comes to the original design of Donkey Kong, I don't like it. Well, it is a very early depiction of Donkey Kong, and oh boy, you can definitely tell. The shape language is a little hard to read, but from the rough posing, it's we all know it's a square motif, so very structured, strong. If you don't know what shape language is, I will do a video in the future on that. Donkey Kong's nostrils cover more of his eyes, which shouldn't be a exaggerated piece of his body, because you don't think of Donkey Kong as the ape with the big nose, you think of Donkey Kong as the monkey's stupid, and stupid he does quite well. He does look like a pretty stupid Kong, but this design is definitely more a beta design, like a design that you would whip out quick. You're not really too worried about it, you're not really thinking about making a plush out of it. It's a very, oh god, we gotta make an ape, we gotta make it now, BAM! His name's Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's design in the Game Boy game is a massive improvement. The design feels a lot more finalized, because our original arcade, cabinet art looked kind of like, you know, rush, gotta get it out. This one feels a lot more refined, like Shigeru Miyamoto got to sit down and said, okay, let's do this proper, and oh boy, it definitely pays off, because the shape language is immediately identifiable as being rectangle, square, strong build, but also kind of stupid. He doesn't look as awkwardly stupid as the previous design, but I think that is won over by the more whimsical fun that he has, because his expressions seem to be more exaggerated without it pulling too much. I think it's mainly because of the added circular features, which are still incorporated enough to not mess with the design too much like how the previous one did. As you can see, the muzzle is a lot more rounded, so whenever he smiles, it really looks like he has that cheeky, mischievous smile on there. His pecs are a lot more circular, which I think fits well with his ears and his fingers and his muzzle, because they all have a rounded edge to them. So the pecs being rounded does make it feel a lot nicer. The tie is also a really nice addition, which also adds a bit more colour to the palette, but also it differentiates him from any other ape that could potentially be made. Because this isn't no longer the ape that stole the woman, this is the ape that stole the woman, because the tie immediately makes you think of Donkey Kong. Sort of a signature in a way. But what if we got this design and gave it to British people? Well, in that case you get Rare DK, which was created for the Super Nintendo. And honestly, this is my favourite design that Donkey Kong has ever looked. It's cinema! But no joking, the design improves a lot. They honestly absolutely cooked with this design, as the modern kids call it these days. But why exactly does this design work so well? Well, in my opinion, even though that it does suffer the whole 90s gotta make it radical times, but what I think this design does incredibly well is how they got what worked about the improved Shigeru Miyamoto design and incorporated more angular features, which makes it a lot easier to not only animate as a 3D model, but also be a lot more readable when it was pixelated for the Super Nintendo. You might be thinking, dear viewer, what about this design is so great? And why did I include the pixelization of this design and not the others? Well, you see, this is the only time the design is almost one-to-one reflected in the pixel art. Because due to the capabilities of a very restricted 90s technology, they took a picture of the 3D model and transferred that into pixel art. So the 3D model would have to take a lot of design features, so when it was converted into pixel art, it would be still easy to read as a pixel sprite. The main difference is the eyes have a deeper shadow, so when you look at the pixel sprite, it's a much bigger contrast, so you can actually see DK's eyes when he's like walking around or banging his chest. Another key detail is his eyebrows, which gives him less expression technically, but it is more identifiable and has the same purpose as his tie of once you see that, you see DK. I personally call it the grommet eyebrow. Another core detail that makes him easier to read is that muzzle of his. I call it the beak muzzle, and so does many people around the internet, because his muzzle is far more elongated than his previous designs, because since you're viewing him from a side profile instead of a front profile in every other Donkey Kong game, since he's moving around and all that, you're gonna have to see if he's happy or not. And this beak-like design helps you see that. Even when he's looking at a front profile, you still know what he's trying to emote to you, because it's long enough so you can see that he's smiling from the side. It's also big enough from when he's looking at front, he's really smiling, or something like that. It very much conveys the emotion. It's the main driving force of the emotion that you're gonna get from this design. In most other scenarios, it's more of body movement shows what he's feeling, or it'll be like something like how Super Smash Bros. Does it and make the eyes pop out so much. Yes, I know Donkey Kong Country does this too, but Smash Bros. I think did it the best. This design ended up staying with Donkey Kong for a very long time. Even though that it did get updates or a bit of upgrades throughout the different console generations, it was still fundamentally the same design through and through. Big eyebrows and all. But that all changed as soon as the Switch came out. Oh, sorry, Switch 2. Sorry, they look virtually identical, just except one looks like a Steam Deck, and one of them looks like something that Nintendo would make. This might be the most unnecessary design change that Nintendo has ever done to the Donkey Kong franchise. Sorry, second most unnecessary design change that they ever done to the Donkey Kong franchise. It's not a bad design per se, but there's just a very small, minute details that really irritate me when compared to the original DK design. Not that one, the other one. There we go. Well, the few improvements that I do really like about this new design is DK's body shape is closer to that square that he had in the Miyamoto design, which I did like. Even though that the Donkey Kong Country model from Rare was a lot more thinner, more toned. Think of it like a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man next to Andrew. But even though that Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Country could move a lot better because of the smaller limbs, I just prefer how Donkey Kong looks in the new model a lot more because it shows more of that shape language of a big towering beast. But the problems that I do have with this model is with the face. The face is where I have all of the problems with. The brow, I actually don't mind this change as much as many people. I think the brow is a lot nicer because when you look at the older design, the brow is a lot more rigid. Sure, it could move very slightly, but I think the most I ever saw that thing move was in the Donkey Kong TV show when... Ugh! That's kind of rough. But the new brow and the new design, it does give a bit more array of expressions. But what I do have problems with is the shadow that it has underneath the brow. Because the shadow on the original Rare design was supposed to give contrast to the eyes and the brow. However, in this design, the shadows are too much in a contrast. When you look at this design, it's too much. The best way that I could describe it is sort of like Roderick. Like, when you look at Roderick, he's clearly wearing that because of like the Y2K aesthetic of the time. But Donkey Kong is very much not in the Y2K aesthetic of that time. I heard some people compare him to Freddy Fazbear. I disagree, but I see where they're coming from. It gives off this uncanny valley. Same with the gums. The gums in this one render when he's angry is, well, more of a critique of Nintendo in general because they did the same thing to Luigi and I didn't like it there. Oh, but it's absolute nothingness compared to what they done to the goddamn the thing attached to his goddamn mouth! I don't know what the thought process is of changing the muzzle back to how it was in the Miyamoto design. As we established, the Rare design, the reason why the muzzle is longer is so when Donkey Kong was viewed at a side profile, you can still tell what he's emoting, and even when you're looking at him from the front, it's just short enough so you can tell what he's emoting there. By shrinking the muzzle back to be shorter, like in the Shigeru Miyamoto design, it makes it harder to read from the side. It looks nicer at front, but it's sort of it's the same way of looking at a dog. Like, this dog is cute. This one looks like I just shoved my hand into it. I do think that the dog is cute. The term that I was meant to use is one dog, if it was animated like in a Disney method, it would be easier to read. But the second dog, if that was animated in the same way, it would be harder to read due to all of the features being a lot more squashed. Yeah, oops, made a little mistake. The last thing that I would like to add is what people have been saying online about this new Donkey Kong design and saying it's far more expressive than the previous one. In the brow, I would say yes, but in every other one, they always say like, oh, the mouth can move so much more, or the eyes are just so much more expressive, and I'd always say the same thing. It's a model. That's not part of a design. You have to model out a unique head sculpt for all of those. It's very basic stuff. This is why action figures in like high-end companies like SH Figure Arts have different individual head sculpts. Because you can't just make something like that and go, okay, here's the design, it's so much more expressive, because you need to individually model out those things. It's the model, not the design, okay? This video took me a lot longer than I thought, but if you watched it to the end, thanks a lot! Man, it takes a lot of guts to watch a whole video about me talking about monkeys all day. Thanks. I'm gonna take a break now.